Hiya.
Hello, right?
Yeah, for you.
Yeah.
Oh, look, my nose. Hi, Teresa. My nose.
Hi, Teresa. I can't hear you properly, Katie. What did you say?
Can't you? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's me. Should I just turn the volume up? Oops. Good stuff. Yeah, your car sorted, okay?
Oh, yeah. Apparently I need... Oh, no. I'm frozen. Oh, you're back. It's okay. It did that a couple of times last week, actually. Froze for a few seconds and then came back. Maybe it's the speed again. Yeah, they put my spare tyre on for now because I need 2 front ones, apparently. So I've got to go back.
Right there. Well, they took a long time to decide that then.
No, I think they just took a long time to get around to doing it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Busy, so. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, Elaine.
Can you hear us, Elaine?
I love it. When everyone actually kind of gets connected and gets plugged in, it's like delight in the eyes.
Yeah. Oh. Good to see your face, Elaine.
I know, I've got it on the right setting now.
You have.
Well done, you. Not
the
an easy
right way around and everything. Oh gosh, easy.
Let's wait for everyone else to. Oh, we're a bit ahead of time, aren't we? So,
yeah, aren't we?
Yeah, that's good.
You know, it must be really boring when you're watching the recordings and it's just like he's yabbering away for 3 minutes, 5 minutes at the beginning. Thanks for doing that document, Linda. I just saw it.
Okay, yeah, for no, that was for the one for afterwards. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Getting organised.
Yes. If I forget, by the way, at the end of this evening, I just wanted to mention the New Year gathering because I'm struggling still to find dates. So that everyone can do. So I'm just wondering about adding Sundays.
Okay.
Would that work for you too, Teresa, Elaine? Oh, Linda, it wouldn't work for you with sailing, would it?
It would work after sort of 4. I really would need till sort of 4 or 5-ish. I'd be okay. I need to get home and have a shower, but I'd be okay for evening or.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be all right for me.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. Hey.
Hello.
I think I've frozen, but I haven't really.
Oh, good. Yeah, you're kind of freezing.
Yeah, sorry about that. I realised I was frozen. Hi, Amy. Hi, Christina. Hi, Katsu. Brilliant. Good to see you all. We've still got a minute. It's fantastic.
I'm just going to go and get a blanket. It's freezing here again.
Okay.
And I'm just going to tidy up my hair. I'm really sorry. I just started. It looks a mess. Oh my God, scary.
I can't believe you just apologised for what your hair looks like.
Because it is scary. Okay, that's bearable. That's bearable. It'll do. Everybody okay? Happy?
Indeed.
I'm going to mute myself.
Excuse me. So who we're expecting Saida. No. Not Jess or Richard or Robin. 2, 4, 5, 6. Who am I missing? Oh no, it's like that memory game. Whose picture is missing?
Very tricky.
I'm sorry if you're watching the recording. I've not said your name.
Louise.
Of course, Lou.
We'll be on in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah, Lou and Saida. Then we should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hello everyone. I'll say hello anyway because it is now 7 o'clock. So well done for you guys for getting here, and welcome back. We're on the 5th week. Time flies, hey? So we'll just have a quick check-in again. The usual group agreements, unless any, I guess I'll leave it now that we'll have it as we have always done, unless something comes up or unless someone actually alerts us to it. So as usual. We may, that's okay, we'll leave that. One reminder is, if you haven't already sent in your competency questionnaire, which we sent out, I think prior to the first week, or certainly on the first week, if you could get that back to us ASAP, because it is kind of relevant, you know, pre-training as opposed to during or after. Because there's a comparison one for after training, and that's for our social impacts, so we can report back to the big lottery and so on. So it is really key to get that in if you haven't already. That would be really great. Thank you. Any problems with that? You know, if you're having trouble what it means or anything, just email your question rather than just leave it. That would be great. If we could have, if for your sharing, if you could share any questions or concerns you have, or whatever queries you have about the document we sent out last week, which is roles and responsibilities, and the session from last week, and also share again your community sharing circle ID or facilitator ID, you know, the exercise we did on that, and just how you feel. And I think we've allowed 1 minute each. Is that right, Katie? Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, hi, Saida. Good to see you. Yeah, Teresa, thank you.
Just waving hello.
I was just waving Saida.
Oh, sorry.
I wasn't really ready to go first.
Now I'm going to direct you to go on. Brilliant.
So what are we saying? Sorry, I was a miles away.
Right. Maybe we just need to ground and breathe now that, well, we're still waiting for Lou actually, but let's just find ourselves here. Have a few deep breaths.
Sounds good idea.
Yeah, maybe put your feet squarely on the floor, and the soles of your feet connect to the ground below, and just take a few deep breaths. Feeling the temperature of your breath, your nostrils, and reaches the back of your throat. Just relaxing, letting go of any tension, any stresses, rushes to be here. Letting go of any hassles of your day, having that internal shower of crystalline white light, just letting go of everything that's been building up for you. Giving space for your intentions for this evening. Letting out those big yawns. Thank you. And coming back into the room. Lovely. So we're just sharing briefly on any queries from last week, your community sharing circle facilitator ID. I just think it's a good practice just to focus in on that for yourselves every week, and how you're feeling. So if Teresa would, yeah, okay. You're taking the heat off you, Teresa, and Jancy's offered. So there you go.
You're welcome, Teresa. I really enjoyed last week. It was a brilliant session. I really feel connected, and it was such a inspiring and motivating session, because previous couple of weeks I was in a slightly darker place, and I was a bit worried about my strength in working my job and being a part of this circle, etc. But then being a part of last week actually made me... Hang on, is this background noise? It's not from me, is it? Because I'm in a very quiet room.
Kind of an echo.
Is it an echo? Okay.
It's just technical, I should think.
Okay. I will try to keep this a little bit closer then. Anyway, so I felt very connected to people, and it gave me strength. And even though my last week, work-wise, was a lot more stressful, I actually did find the strength in what we shared last week. And I used the advice and inspiration from you people. And then I realized being part of this community is the strength that that gives me, that will give me to the motivation to go forward with the community sharing circles. So I just want to thank you for putting me back in my centre again. Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you. That's very lovely to start the session like that. And remember that we didn't put you there, you put yourself there, but you used the inspiration. So well done, you. Thank you. Good stuff. Bless you. And anyone ready? Yeah, Rachel, hi.
I was just going to suggest that maybe some people could mute themselves so that there's not the background echo, because I think it might be microphones picking up on voices. Yeah? No? Okay. I'm happy to share as well if you like.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah. In terms of what happened last week, it was quite an emotional roller coaster for me last week. But actually it was really helpful because it gave me some time to reflect on something that I put to one side and not really dealt with for a very long time. So it was really helpful. So thank you for giving me the time and space to do that. As you know, my community sharing circle facilitator role is around familial abuse. So that's been sort of quite central in terms of the reaction that I've had to what I talked about last week, and how it has that capacity to actually sort of raise a little flood of emotions, and how I can make people feel safe or help people feel safe to share those things. But I feel much more grounded this week. I'm really pleased to be here because it's like coming home. It feels quite wonderful, cozy and friendly, and lovely and safe. And it's a bit strange at the moment. I've got a lot of stuff going on in my life. I'm ending a job this week, so there's a lot of stuff that I'm putting to bed and saying goodbye to, and that's a bit strange, but it's also quite nice to know that there's something new around the corner as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. And yeah, Teresa.
So I kind of had a bit of a moment last week's session as well, and haven't explored that too much, what I was feeling then, but I feel as though on some level it's kind of been working through it. So I think it's something I'm always going to find tricky, speaking up at times, but that's okay, and I'll get better at it with time. I wanted to sort of share something I went to. I had a conference I went to on one day last week. I can't remember what it was now, and that was on adoption and fostering, which is like some of the stuff that I might be covering in the circle, and it was just really interesting seeing how they're moving forward with the way adoptions are facilitated, and what they do with the children on more of a therapeutic level. So that's really interesting and quite inspiring, and I always learn something about myself through those as well, so that's been really good. And it's more knowledge that I can kind of bring to the table, I suppose, with the sharing circle. So yeah, I'm okay. I'm feeling okay, and I was feeling quite positive towards the end of the week, towards the weekend, and then I don't know, today I've just hit a bit of a wall again, but I'm okay. Maybe on some level it does bring things up a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Taking care of myself.
Thank you, Teresa. We're covering that this evening also, that'll be useful for you. And it's great that, by going to those conferences, one of the things we talked about last week was creating that resource list for your circle that people, so I'm sure you've maybe added to that this week. So, or with that conference rather. Thank you. Yeah, Elaine. You're on mute, Elaine.
Oh.
There you go, I can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry. I just want to say I felt that it was very good to listen to a lot of the things that were said last week. I felt that brought a lot of revelation, understanding in things, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to do lots to help people, to give them a voice, to give them the freedom to speak. But I'm worried that it might break a few rules without meaning to, as we support the people, because I have looked through all the rules, and with all goodwill I want to follow all the rules, but when you're actually working with people and they get emotionally upset or they actually break rules, that's quite difficult, and I think that that's going to be a learning process as we work within the group, you know. And I just want to say I'm so thankful to be able to share with everyone else and to listen, because I think whatever we're learning we'll always be able to use in our groups for the type of people we want to help. And my group I've decided is to be a voice for the voiceless and to give people courage to stand up, that they have as much the same I believe as other people. You know, they've been squashed and it's time for them to be free too.
Awesome. Brilliant, Elaine. Thank you. I'm really glad you took the time to listen and got some value from that. It's awesome. And you're getting clarity on your group as well, which I guess that's helping you do. So I'll come back to you about the rules and breaking the rules. Thank you, Elaine. And who would like to check in next? And there's Lou. Good. So Amy, yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone. Yeah, firstly, just sorry I couldn't make last week. Sounds like it was a very powerful session for a lot of you. About halfway through the recording, so I haven't fully heard everything. But it's been a bit of a strange one. Been quite up and down. My self-talk has been very, very, very harsh and critical, and that's felt quite heavy. So just trying to find, and I've come across a couple of quotes over the past couple of days that have just really resonated for me. Like one of them was Joseph Campbell's phrase, I can't remember exactly what it is, but like the cave you fear the most has the wisdom that you need to learn, or something like that, something along those lines. And then the other phrase is, I am the person that I've been looking for. That really struck home with me, because it's like as soon as I go into that mentality of something's wrong, like I'm being really self-critical, I'm really aware of my patterns and my habits and behaviors, like, I need help, I need like external help, someone needs to fix me. So I go into this thing of like, who can I call, who can I contact, who can help me through this, when ultimately that the person that I am essentially looking for is myself. So yeah, it's just been interesting to realise that. Sorry, I just had a little bit of more clarity as to my ID, if that's okay. I can just share that quickly. So I'm an open-hearted and passionate soul explorer, inspiring courage and wholehearted connections. Yeah, that's kind of what I've got so far. And I've also become a lot more clearer on what my group is going to be, which is going to be focused mainly on emotional eating. I know I've sort of dabbled in like body image and self-esteem, but I think that's the theme that is most kind of that most resonates with me, is emotional eating and everything that comes with that. So yeah, so thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amy. Lovely to hear your idea. It sounded wonderful. Thank you. Wise words. Thank you. And who would like to share next? Hello, everybody. Go on, come and share. Hi, Lou. Good to see you. Hi.
You're on mute, Lou.
You're on mute, I think, still.
I'm on mute.
Can you hear me now? Is that it?
Yes,
Okay. Oh, hello all. I'm sorry I was late. I wasn't even stuck in traffic. You know, I mean, you just think, well, that's the normal reason for being late. My computer just failed on me miserably. So 15 minutes. I think it's because it had been tucked under my bed most of the week and not being used. And I use this one because I need to get away from the other one, which has got all my essay on, and I won't mix the two up because it's just too much. So yeah, I should have been more prepared, and I think that's really showed me something that I'm. This is indicative, very indicative. The 15-minute late thing is very indicative of me at the moment, just trying to juggle many balls in the air, and picking them up as well because they're dropping like mad. And I've had another week, full week. I don't think I feel like my feet haven't touched the floor since maybe about 10 or 12 days ago, because I had last weekend, I did 2 days of training, then had to go to Cambridge again for more training, and then on the Tuesday, and then 3 days work, and then go to London for more training and essay yesterday and today. I'm spent. I'm absolutely knackered. So I'm pretty good. I'm going to be pretty rubbish tonight, I think, to be honest. I'm glad about the subject matter because today I felt really low, really in the doldrums, because I thought I just don't want to be sitting here ploughing my way through neuroscience papers, which is what I've been doing. So I'm happy to listen and be lifted.
Thank you for being here. You know, with all those other things that you're doing, especially other trainings, it must be quite overwhelming. So thank you.
Yeah, it was, because lots of it is very much about me, and I'm learning so much, but also about trauma. That's a separate subject, but yeah, loads to take in. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And who else would like to check in and say hi? I tell you what, I will, because everyone's sort of just holding off there. I've had a up and down week, really. I'm just delighted to have my daughter home, who intermittently home. She's basically in England for 6 weeks and in London at her father's and with me, sort of intermittently, really. But I had the whole weekend with her, just her and I, and it was lovely. Probably the first time we've done that really in quite a few years, actually. Because she's been running very hard and travelling a lot and working very long hours when she was in London. So it was very lovely, but it's also, that's really, really positive. The whole weekend was wonderful. But having her gone again, just for a few more days, it's like it re-triggers the old trauma of the divorce and all the rest of it, and the impact that's had and all the rest of it. So that's going on as well. And also, a relationship that don't even know if I can call it relationship, but it is certainly a caring friendship, and has been a partner in my past and recent past, and we've been sort of building up towards getting together again, but not really clear about what we are. And there was a sort of another level of clarity I had with that relationship with him, and not sure where that's going or what's happening, but it's kind of painful. So self-care is good tonight. I'm looking forward to it too. So thank you. And anyone else? Yes, Saida. Are you on mute? I think you might be on mute, Saida.
You're unmuted now.
No, still can't hear you. No, can't hear.
No.
Is the volume? I don't know if that makes a difference. It looks like you're unmuted, doesn't it?
There we go.
Oh, that sounds like you. No. Oh. Don't know what's going on. You're muted at the moment. Does someone else want to check in, and you keep working at it, Zaida? See if you can sort of fiddle with your settings. while someone else checks in, which is either Christina or Katie.
Do you want to go, Christina? Or?
Yeah. Okay. Come back to you in a minute, Zaidi.
Yeah, so apologies for not making last week. Probably not a good week actually for me, because from some of the promotion that I'd done for my charity, a lady contacted me saying that she wanted to help and in any way that she could. So anyway, we conversed on email and we arranged to meet, and it happened to be the Wednesday after we'd done the previous Monday. And she turned out to sort of be quite a long-term friend of my ex-abusive husband. And as the conversation transpired, it became quite difficult, and I became quite sort of, I felt quite vulnerable, quite threatened, not quite sure actually how to handle it. In that conversation, she felt that it would probably be a good idea to tell me exactly the things that he'd said about me in the arena, which, you know, in the public arena I'm talking about, which was useful, but equally sort of made me sort of go back to quite a lot of the sort of hurt and pain that I'd tried to deal with. So it probably wasn't a good week. And then I had to fly to Guernsey on Tuesday for a business appointment, and I wasn't in a good place. I was up at 10 to 4 on the train at 5:30, and just had to hold it together, had to refocus. And so it's only actually now that I really feel that I've worked through those issues. I did look at some of the notes from last week, and I know that Katie sent an email about putting labels on people. But for me, I'm not saying I'd do it in my group, but for me, understanding the behaviours and characters of my abusers, I need to have it, because it's my way of healing. It's my way of saying, yes, they tick that box, yes, they tick that box, therefore I can categorise it as that. So in my own sort of headspace and through Twitter, I think Twitter's been quite good, then I've managed to sort of work through it. So, but I hate having this vulnerability still after all these years. I don't want that person to keep getting to me through different avenues. I just don't want it, but that's how it is. So that's mine.
Thank you for sharing that, Christina. Yeah, very challenging. Thank you. And Saida, how are you doing with your... Oh, it's so annoying. Can't hear you. Oh. You're not on mute, but there's obviously something technical there with your, I don't know, connection. No.
Is your earphone plugged in fully? Sometimes if it's half out, it doesn't work properly.
What we'll do, Zaida, is treat you as though you can speak. So every time there's an opportunity for sharing, we'll give you that opportunity, and hopefully it will come clean. That's all we can suggest, really. But at least you're here to listen, and we can see your lovely face. So that's good. Katie, do you want to check in?
I'll just do a quick check-in. Yeah, I really resonate with a lot of people, what people have said. Thank you, Christina, for sharing that. And I think we're all vulnerable. We've all got blind spots. It's happened to me this weekend. My new partner's been staying, which has been wonderfully affirming, really beautiful, but also quite painful now. I've gone back to a difficult marriage split and all the messiness that's involved with that. And I was listening to a sharing, another peer and I that did the training before, share quite deeply through WhatsApp voice our processing together. We have kind of a pair share, and we reflect on each other's journeys. And she said something that really spoke to me, so I'll share it with you. She was talking about how, and it made me think, Amy, when you said about, I know it was you, Teresa, when you said about, you're struggling and that's okay. She said about allowing all of the facets of our being to do a dance all together at once. And it's like when you, I think I've got the echo, sorry. Yeah, I think we can't just be one thing at one time. I think there's so many mixed, complex emotions happening all at once, and for me, the healthiest thing is to allow them all to kind of flow together and dance and sort of just be in, not get stuck in one in particular and just kind of witness. It's a healthy way to be. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So did you want one more quick go?
I'll try and unmute you from here. Does that make any difference? No.
No. Okay. No worries. I'll keep giving you the chance, but okay. So we're going to be talking. Thank you for your sharing and checking in. It's lovely that you're all willing to share in the way that you do, the good and the challenging. We're talking about self-care tonight, so very apt, I think, for a lot of us. I don't think there's really much I need to introduce, so we'll just go straight into it. So we'll have a 3-minute share each. Is that still okay, Katie? Because I know we're overrunning a little. And I'll just let you look at that. We're going to share how do you know when you're starting to struggle? So it's like tuning in, think of a time when you have struggled, when you have gone through challenges, when you have felt vulnerable, maybe recently, maybe in the past, where you have felt that you've lost your centre or went into crisis. What were the symptoms and signs for you? So just because it's all about building awareness, the more you tune into that, the quicker then you can act on your self-care. So we'll just keep to what were the symptoms and signs that you were needing for self-care, as it were, either recently or in the past. So is it 3 minutes okay, Katie? Yeah, okay. So who would like to share first? I might need a few deep breaths to think about that, but. Yeah, Katie, thank you.
I was just thinking, I'll go first, and then I'll take a bit less time because we're running slightly over. So
yeah, just realised.
Yeah, for me, I think I notice now that I go into old patterns, like you were saying, Amy, of negative self-talk. I start to go into anxiety. I'm generalising, not really thinking of a specific time, but there are certain things that trigger me around feeling rejected and abandoned. There's a weird kind of robotic echo. Can everyone else hear that? Sorry, it's really off-putting, isn't it? Yeah, and for me, then I start to ruminate on things, and that can kind of, I can kind of start to tie myself in knots and make up stories. So it's about recognising when I'm doing that, and then I feel vulnerable, like you were saying, Christina, sort of alone. I tend to isolate myself then at times. So that's something that I do. I get nervous about seeing people. What will people think of me? Yeah, and can get quite kind of, I think feeling off centre is the thing. And how that manifests for me is I'll start to notice that I'm wearing more of a facade again, so not being so authentic to myself and slipping more into my old ways of being different around people, kind of being someone that I think they want me to be, rather than being strong and kind of very sure in myself. So maybe less boundaried, allowing people to take advantage more, not speaking up for myself when I'm feeling hurt. Yeah, those types of things.
Thank you, Katie. That's like, you shared some quite deep insights there in yourself, so that's really, really useful, actually. Thank you. Yeah, Amy, thank you.
Yeah, I completely resonated with what you're saying, Katie. And for me, like when I start to struggle, do you mean is it just in general, or do you mean like that was the question, wasn't it? Like when we start to struggle, when you
when you start to struggle, when you think of past times when gone through a phase of dark times or feeling vulnerable to crisis.
For me, actually, it turned into an attack on my body, like completely feeling uncomfortable in my own skin and being like, I need to fix this, I need to lose weight, I need to, eat better, whatever it is. It turns into this kind of like attack on myself. And I've noticed as soon as I start to feel, just that like uncomfortable being with myself, and start to search for things to numb out or like sort of like check out of my body. That's when I'm realizing, oh yeah, something's going on, something's creating that uncomfy feeling. But sometimes, sometimes it's a little bit late when I realize, and I've done all this kind of destructive behavior, and it's like, shit, now, and then I feel worse because I've done that. So yeah, so obviously the more time goes on, the earlier I'm catching that. So that's really helpful. But yeah, it's just, I think, just sitting with myself without any distraction of any kind, like no movies, no phone, no music, nothing. It's just, when that becomes unbearable, I know something's wrong. And I'm starting to really struggle.
That's okay.
Like I said before, I go into this mentality of like, I need to go and see someone about this. I can't do this on my own. When obviously it's really helpful to speak to a friend or to speak to someone about it. But I think that's like an old pattern of like, I can't help myself. I need to depend on external resources, when actually that's not true. That's kind of it really. I can think of.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant self-awareness again, Amy, that that you realise that that's not helpful for you, and it's a sign basically. That's awesome. Thank you. Brilliant. Yeah, Shantu.
Actually, both what Katie and Amy said resonated with me a lot, and I keep catching myself, especially in the past 2 weeks, where I was feeling a little bit vulnerable, that I keep doing the old tricks. I first make excuses not to see people, isolate myself, feel really lonely, question all of my actions, question all of my thoughts, and affects my work a lot, because I prevent any social interaction. And I think it helps me to exclude that sort of questioning, but you can't avoid work, obviously, and then you start to feel a bit self-conscious about your who you are, how you do things, etc. And then I think to myself, this isolation is not helping, and then I force myself to socialize, and then it comes acting. Then I become this super bubbly person that I think everybody expects me to be. And then I sort of hate myself for bluntly lying in front of my friends. And then I try everything in my power to avoid talking about myself. But some of my friends know me really well, that this is a facade, and they would see that right through, and then they would kind of encourage me to talk about myself. If I'm feeling okay, then kicks in the anxiety, isolation comes back again, the same cycle. But sometimes I find myself actually brave enough to open up. It is not because I worry about what they're going to think, but if you voice your feelings, emotions, they become real. Or at least that is for me. So if I tell out loud that I feel vulnerable, or I feel lonely, or whatever it is I'm going through, then suddenly it is much more real than it was when you're just thinking it. That's why I don't like talking about it. But if I do, then I'll do. Then I don't accept any help. I think like Amy, which is actually correct, but I think I'm coming from a wrong angle, that I am the person who can help me. No one else can help me. But then I take it a little bit further to an unrealistic point, like no one can help me, no one can support me, I'm on its own. And this negative vicious cycle is like when it becomes the whirlpool, then you know that you really are vulnerable, and this is not the healthy thing to do. And then I know that I actually am struggling now, that I can't. Yeah, I have to have some support. Yeah. Oops, sorry. When you reject the support, then it doesn't work. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you. That's really, really great. We all are different, aren't we? And it's just great to think about or to express those sort of actual thinking processes that take us down, and what they are for each of us. Yeah, if that's what it is. It may not be, but yeah, thank you for sharing. Brilliant. And who would like to share next? Yeah, Lou.
I've just been thinking about what everyone said, and I recognise little bits here and there. I think generally I'm a person that might hide my feelings behind a facade of pleasing others. So I kind of get into a bit of pleasing just to sort of, I think it's something like to do with fear of rejection and things like that. I'm kind of working on that right now. But when I get into a sort of mental crisis, I suppose is one way of putting it, it doesn't happen very often. I think it's because I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not. It happened not long ago, and I noticed my need for people was absolutely essential. And I sought out people, and instead of pleasing, which is kind of what I can go into, that's the overcompensation part of myself. I'm very needy suddenly, and it feels really weird and strange, and I feel like I'm taking up everybody's time, and I shouldn't be, and I'm really guilty about that, and I go on and messaging, and I imagine I'm a complete and utter bore and burden to everybody when I'm in that state. But actually, it's beginning to make me think they do care and they are interested, which is probably fairly recent. I've got a few very close female friends, and they all support me, which is marvellous. And it's probably the first time I felt that I could just let rip and go, and I seek them out now. I kind of go, that's okay. But for probably a long time, I've not done that, and I've kind of gone on the facade thing, pleasing, throw yourself into your work. But when I'm actually in that space of just trying to sort something out that's really upsetting me, now I kind of go with it a bit more and go, I just need some help through this, and I can do it quite quickly then. And my friends all kind of know that they need to be there, and then I'm all right, and then I'll go away and I can be there for them at some point. You know what I mean? It's like this, but I don't know how I'd do it without them. Yeah, that's hard. I think I'd just retreat actually and just go into my own world with the dog, and just take the dog out for a walk a lot and try and sort it out. I can't actually do much else in that state. I have to just sort it out in my head, and it just needs clearing almost.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think also when I was suffering from postnatal depression, I did find it really, really hard to ask for help. And I think I learned a lot from those times. I needed the help then, and I didn't ask.
Thank you. Very helpful to share that. Thank you. Yeah, Teresa.
I can relate to bits of what everyone's saying. Again, myself, I'm trying to learn to be a bit of a master of seeing the signs, because often I haven't, even though I get these feelings in my body that I can't really explain. One is that it's like something beyond my eyes is peeled away, and then it's really difficult to explain. I'm more sensitive to everything. It's quite hard to, it is hard to explain, but it's like I just become hypersensitive, and I feel things, I feel atmospheres more, I feel other people's stuff more. That can be quite tricky. And then I also notice it in my body. I start to become a bit disconnected from my body, and then I'm in my head so much that I'm not really thinking things through properly. I just get into my head too much. I just want to share something, because when I was at the conference, the adoption and fostering conference, they were talking about trauma and how that massively impacts children, and how because of that trauma, they're living in their bodies, they struggle to kind of learn at school, or to concentrate or focus. And I'll just hold up this diagram. I don't know if you can see it. You've just got like literally two charts, one there, and the shaded part on this one is the bit of you that is able to learn, because that part of you is so preoccupied by all the stuff, all the trauma and all the difficult stuff. And it really resonated with me, because it should be more like that one. You've got all this room to kind of take stuff in, and that is just, there's just a little bit that is unable to. And that kind of really, I thought that's what happens to me. And that's one of the things I become aware of, is that there's such a small part of me that is able to retain any information, or to focus, to concentrate. So actually I think that might be a good tool that I can kind of use to help me see that. And then the other thing, I suppose, is I become very fearful, because for me there's this bit of me that's able to kind of take care of myself, and then I don't have anything in the middle, because I didn't have resilience as a child. I didn't have encouragement and resilience, so I kind of go from that and fall through that bit and just go straight into the very dark stuff. So I'm trying to strengthen that middle bit. So that's kind of, and I'm learning better ways of looking after myself. So yeah, that's kind of me.
Thank you, Teresa. That's really it makes me think of that thing of like, you can't give from an empty cup. If you've got stuff you've got to process it. It's the only work there is, isn't it? Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And where are we? Elaine, did you want to share? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, good. I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay.
Oh.
I just wanted to say, can you hear me now?
And anyone else?
Can you hear me?
Sorry, the signal's terrible.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I just felt that was so, we don't realise that what trauma does to lives. And the thing that will really throw me is when somebody's had a very traumatic life, and you've obviously got empathy for them, compassion for them, and that's okay. But when you meet somebody else who will not have it at all, that person's struggling and has a difficult life, I find it quite upsetting for that person that they're not able to have their voice and say it. And you learn to compensate, you learn to come through all this stuff, and you learn ways to deal with it. But sometimes that'll just get to you. Like, somebody will be really struggling and the whole system seems to be against them. And that's when that really does get to me, because I just want things to be better for them. It's sort of some of their suffering as just so awful that you just want to see something change for them to be positive, And
what signs in your life? What makes you know that you're struggling though? I know that's obviously a trigger for you, but what else?
Yeah, that is a trigger. Well, if I was struggling, I'd be really upset about something like that, and then I'd have to separate myself to just think about things, to relax, maybe like walk the dog or something, but I used to, when I was first dealing with things, I used to just deliberately eat to emotionally to just deal with it, but I've learned not to have to do that anymore. But we just don't know. But I've learned never now to allow food to be that tool, because it used to have such a power over me. So I just don't know. But really, one of my triggers, like I said, is you just feel such empathy for a person, and you just think, oh, why can't something good happen for this person, Because they reach them out and they're asking you, and that's not within your ability to do anything, You can only
we're losing the sound again, Elaine. Sorry, didn't catch that bit. So annoying.
So you can only do what you can do for them. Do you know what I mean? So you have to separate yourself.
Sorry, the sound's gone.
Because it's difficult.
It's your signal, Elaine.
Yeah. Oh, but we did hear a lot of what you said. I think just the last bit we couldn't quite hear. But thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and that So you used to use sort of food, and now you've learned not to. But that's a good sign. If you were starting to do that, that would be a sign that you're wobbly. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Who would like to share next? Yeah, Rachel.
It's been really quite unbelievable listening to people, because I've related to so much of what's been said by little elements of what people are going through or what they feel, and I just go, yep, I can really relate to that. Yep, I can really relate to that. Certification has worked all the way through. I think I've got sort of sod it all type behavior when I'm frustrated. So it is shall I have that bar of chocolate? No, I won't. Would normally be my response, but when I'm feeling bad about myself, I will go and eat. And also, I think for me, one of the biggest things is my clarity of thinking. So I tend to find myself overthinking things, reading an awful lot more into stuff than is actually the case. So, for example, if a friend cancels on me, rather than thinking, oh, well, she's had to cancel on me because of X, Y, and Z, I'll go, maybe I've said something, maybe I've offended her, maybe it's something I've said that's upset her. So I'm very capable of doing that. I become very self-conscious about the relationships I have with people and the way that I'm perceived by other people. I think somebody else said that. And start thinking about that. And so I'm very aware when I'm starting those thinking patterns that those are triggers that I'm going to have a tough time of it. So there's quite a level of paranoia, I suppose, in some cases. And I have actually started being quite brave and sort of saying, look, can you just put my mind at ease? Have I upset you, or am I just imagining this? And 99.9% of the time, I've just overthought it, made up this wild scenario in my head. But it's really hard when you're going through that, because it kind of reinforces all these negative statements that have been said to me before. So overthinking, reading too much, being self-conscious, and there's a lot of people who are saying they withdraw, and I think that's one of the things I do as well. I sort of, if I'm not feeling good about myself, I'm not sure about a situation, because of the way I've been feeling in my head, I'll pull myself away and sort of just double check where I'm at in that relationship or in that scenario, and whether I've play conversations over in my head again. And those are all signs that I'm probably in need of looking after myself a bit more.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Yeah. And where are we now? Who else needs to share? Christina? Saeed, I don't know if you can check in or where you're at in terms of sound. Who would like to share next? I can, if you like. How about that? I really resonated with what you said, Rachel. I sometimes get those, I've quite recently actually recognised those sort of paranoid thoughts of, oh, that's what they're doing, or feeling excluded because something else, feeling I'm out of it, separate and alienated kind of thing. That's quite a recent one, really. But typically in the past, it was wanting, like having a strong need for change, and possibly taking like massive, bigger adventure, and sort of almost not risk taking, but verging towards that, like escapism kind of thing, like physical getting out of here. And the reverse of that is also sometimes when I go through phases sometimes of feeling very bland and bored and not in the magic, not in the synchronicity. And when that happens now, I know that that's probably a sign that things aren't quite right, because actually it's really good when things are flowing and magical and synchronistic. And so when I'm out of that, I'm aware that I'm probably not on the right path here. There's something not quite right. And also chocolate, for sure. I have a little bit of chocolate, dark chocolate, quite regularly, but sometimes I want to eat a lot of it in one go. But I'm pretty good at resisting that, but it is there. Definitely the desire is there. So noticing that desire is good to know. Yeah. Thank you. Who wants to share next? Christina.
Yeah, I'm now thinking that you've all set this meeting up with this woman. Not that I'm paranoid, just so that I could bring this input to this session. No, I'm only joking. I do want to say that this woman contacted me because she's actually been obviously abused and stalked. So I did just want to say that she didn't just contact me randomly saying, "Can I help?" She had a story too. But yeah, obviously it does make me withdraw completely, makes me doubt myself. I've had to rebuild myself, and it pulls down little building blocks which I've put in place to get back to having sanity and strength, to be quite honest. It brings back feelings of shame that I should never have had. I was not the abuser, and actually it takes a lot of internal work with myself mentally. I mean, I know Lou was saying she talks to friends. I have no trust. I talk to this group, but I would not speak to anybody. Perhaps my son hears bits, I don't know, but yeah, I have to work it through my own head. Dog, as many of you have mentioned, my best little buddy, so yeah, get out in the fresh air and work through it myself, and actually believe that I'm sort of winning some of the battles, actually, because I felt like I've just lost all the battles for several years and been walked over. And I just need to get to that point that I feel that I'm not, I suppose. Yeah, and I do lose rational thoughts because, and just as a funny example, this person offered to help. And so she asked for my logo for the charity, which I've sent her. And I still haven't had anything back. And so part of me is thinking, where on earth is my logo going and how is it being used? But it could be that it will come back with, a flyer or something, but it still hasn't come. So I'm thinking, oh my God, what's happened? And equally, I'm not sure I can trust her. And I'm not sure we could ever connect because of that connection that she has. And whilst she's, sent emails suggesting that, God, the lies and the manipulation that goes on, she's known this person for 20 odd years. And it's quite funny, actually, just moving slightly off a bit. But, my ex had actually told her that he was in love with her whilst he was still in a relationship with me and being abusive. So it was really it was just hugely impactful, to think that actually this man was telling everyone I was the abuser. But in the second, he was getting his next feed ready. He's getting his next woman ready to almost, because she is very similar and has lots of empathy. So anyway, yeah, it's made me feel anxious. It's made me feel no confidence. And what's really difficult is that I have to do that in my job. I have to just change it. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, and really appreciate your trust in us and your sharing. It's huge, and really honour that. Thank you, Christina. And Katie.
I've been.
Oh, you did, didn't you? You went at the beginning, didn't you? Thank you for starting us off. It's been so long ago. How are we doing? Oh, good. We're on good timing. Thank you.
We just got Saida.
Yeah, how are you doing, Saida? Let's see if we can hear you.
We were actually due to due to break now, so if we can't hear Saida, that's perfect. Whilst
No,
you're trying, I just love, just before we, yeah, I just love hearing how normalizing struggles, you know, we're just all, it's so normal to continue to struggle wherever we are. And we spoke about that last week, didn't we? It's like, we don't have to be there at the end of the journey to support people, because there is no end of the journey. It's like continuous evolution and growth, and struggles are all part of it. And I think it's just being able to be conscious of them and talk about them is just enough. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, we're planning to have a break now for 5 minutes if you want to come back at 8 o'clock. And we'll look at more positive aspects of what has helped. So we'll go into that afterwards. So thank you. See you in a little bit. Cool. Just wait till everyone gets back.
Oh, it doesn't have to go quick, doesn't it?
It does. Both each evening and the weeks. It is 8:01 now, so maybe those of you who are here started. So what we're going to do. Oh, I'm echoing. Aren't I? Sorry about that. So what we're going to do now is talk about or think about what would have helped more in hindsight. What did you do that helped you, and what would have helped even more now that you know what you know, kind of thing. Feel free to use sorry, did you send out the reference sheet, Katie, or are we doing that afterwards? I've forgotten.
Yes.
You did. Okay, so feel free to use that as a resource if that's useful, but obviously it's really what actually helped you and what could have helped you, that you can use that as well. But don't worry about it, because that's also just a reference sheet for you to look at as and when you want to. So. Good, so we'll have 3 minutes each. And who would like to share first? What helped? What self-care resources helped? And what we'll also do, sorry, just to fill you in, is we'll keep a track of what you're saying and we'll summarise it and send that out afterwards, so that you've got sort of a resource sheet that may be useful for you or other people who found these things useful, and obviously you can add to that as well, so that will be just a good reference sheet for you. So who would like to share first? Yeah, Katie, great, thank you.
Thinking I'm happy to kick off, because then I can concentrate on making notes.
Oh, good one, yeah. Do you want me to take notes for you?
I started actually taking some notes when people were talking, because I was thinking of kind of the opposite of how I've managed to do those, sort of try and work with those things. So letting go of emotion and kind of, rather than pushing it away, actually being brave and requesting help was a big step for me too. I know a few people have said that. Allowing myself to be supported, because I think it resonates with a lot of us. I had to be strong when I was young. When I was growing up, I was kind of in the parent role quite young and was quite independent, so I really struggled to kind of allow myself to be looked after, cared for, request support. So that was a big thing. And now watching my emotions and being aware of when I'm feeling uncomfortable, so that I know when my boundaries are being overstepped. So actually becoming aware of where my boundaries are and finding my voice in saying, no, that's not okay with me. Whereas I used to allow myself to be just kind of walked, I think you said it, Christina, sort of walked all over, whereas now I'm more able to be confident around what's okay for me and what's not okay for me. Also Teresa was saying about kind of leaving her body, and you said, Amy, as well, around sort of numbing actions, and I've used alcohol in the past and things like that to numb myself out too, and in eating as well. So embodiment exercises, so yoga, breathing exercises, kind of becoming aware when I'm overthinking and trying to get out of the mind and kind of more into breath and it back into my body, so slowing things down. And also not running away. So running away was one of my big things. Shut down, run away, change environments, go and live in another country. Did it quite extreme. So sitting with, if I'm starting to struggle, it's actually learning to not run away and just sit with those things and look at what those emotions or what that situation is trying to teach me around what I need to change. So kind of using it, trying to change it into some kind of a blessing, a message, rather than just run away from it, which is what I try and do now. And also using affirmations were quite a big thing for me. So trying to change my neural pathways, trying to change my I used to have very instantaneous negative thinking patterns, and I did a lot of work on using affirmations to change that into more sort of positive self-talk. Yeah, I think they've been the main things for me. Slowing down, definitely slowing down. Becoming more embodied, using nature, getting out into nature more.
Brilliant, that's really fantastic, thank you. Awesome. And you may well have some of the same, and feel free to repeat them if that's meaningful for you, and add on any others. Yeah, Jansu.
Hi. What really helps me normally is try to catch the signs earlier. So if I feel uncomfortable, if I feel even slightly anxious, I try to pinpoint where this might be rooting from. It could be just that I'm behind, I'm running late for a meeting. It could be just that I actually don't know what to wear for some occasion, etc. That might cause anxiety for me as well, like little things can actually trigger anxiety, but these are very easy to deal with type of anxieties. Whereas if I'm going into this depressive type of anxiety, then I need to be able to define if this is going to spiral, scale up to a massive thing. So I try to just stop and see, okay, this what I'm feeling at the moment is a bit funny, and why do I feel this way? It may lead to overthinking, like Rachel was saying earlier, like that's why I need to be a bit cautious about it. So I find that just accepting my imperfect self, saying that it is okay to be a bit weird, it's okay to feel funny. Just try not to dwell on why you're why you are feeling what you're feeling, but where it might be rooted from. So I try to shift the focus to what just happened. Like Katie said, like, why did it make me uncomfortable? So I try to get to know myself a little bit better, because as I said, I use a lot of masks in social situations. I try that as a defense mechanism. So sometimes I fool myself as well, and then I try not to fool myself in that sense. I try to be honest with myself, which is work in progress, to be honest. And like what I was saying before, talking to friends sometimes it's difficult because I have to say things out loud, and I don't necessarily feel like comfortable confessing emotions. So sometimes I find that it is easy if I catch myself early in the process and look in the mirror, look into my eyes and say that, okay, I feel a bit lonely, or I feel a bit isolated. I feel vulnerable, but it's okay because I know I feel vulnerable. Now I can act on it. So I think that helps. And that everything else fails, exercise really helps. It's sorry, and I find that just clearing my mind, just going for a swim or 20 also, and my cat eating me clearly helps. But, yeah. These are the things really. Sorry.
Thank you. It's lovely. Thank you very much. Brilliant.
Pets is a good thing, actually.
Yeah, Lou.
Yeah, I was just going to say, pets. Oh gosh, they are fantastic when you're in that kind of place, because they just know most of the time, and they are quite sensitive, and they come up and nuzzle you or whatever. And I think for me, it's just about trying to get out of my own headspace, because my own headspace is it's confusion and quite often quite distorted. I'm feeling perhaps a little paranoid about what other people are thinking, all those kind of things that we've just said. So for me, it helps for me because I'm really good at just going into one and not actually coming out of it for a little while. And it overtakes me, it's overwhelming. So I have to make sure that I don't. I mean, one of the big signs is sort of doing the washing up in silence and thinking, and not actually hearing anybody what anyone's saying. Or cleaning or anything around the house, or just being completely obsessed with what's going on in here. So I know that's not good for me. So what I do is I make myself go out of the house. I'll take the dog for a walk. I'll go and do some shopping. I'll make sure I talk to someone. Usually that's the best thing for me, is to talk and make a connection with the outside world. Sometimes it can be a stranger. That can be just enough for me to just go, oh, okay, back in the room, you know. What else have I written down? Being honest with oneself. A lot of the time it's very easy to apportion blame to others. And I'm a great one for going, oh, right, okay. Try and get that straight a bit, because blame is so destructive. Self-blame as well as blaming others. So sometimes it's about looking at the facts and going, what's real? You know, what else have I said? Things like just music, watching a film, kind of practical things actually. Going out in nature, as Katie said, some mindfulness perhaps, you know, looking at the trees for a bit, taking some photographs, finding nature, the beauty in nature, that kind of thing. Having a hot bath, you know, looking after myself for a bit. Writing, that's a good one. I usually tend to do it via text to someone else, or sometimes I'll journal, because I just find that is quite a cathartic way of me getting stuff out, and know, you know, it's kind of me listening to myself without it going round and round in my head, if you see what I mean. So I can get clarity by doing that. So yeah, I tend to use quite a lot of practical things to just move myself away from my own head. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Excellent. Appreciate all your courage of sharing all this. Actually, it's amazing, isn't it? Thank you. Yeah, Amy.
For me, what really helps me is, that's what we're showing, right? What helps us, yeah. Is dancing, like physically, you know, just going wild, not, you know, sort of in the living room on my own, the music blaring. Yeah, it just feels great. Makes me feel great, and it's like kind of gets me out of that internal chatter that's just not helpful. And like laughing and, you know, being silly and being playful, it just really helps. And I live with my landlady, who's also my really good friend, and we just have like fits of hysteria and laughter that just it's just such a relief to know that, you know, it can shift and it can change. Because I feel like I can get very stuck on like, it's going to be like this forever, like, oh my god, this is such a drag. And like you were saying earlier, Linda, when you feel disconnected from the synchronicity and source, and, you know, just watching, actually as well, watching kind of an inspiring talk or an inspiring video can literally just completely change. And it's like, oh my god, yeah, of course, all these things are amazing and they can happen, and we have this connection to this infinite source of, you know, amazingness and magic. It's like, it just so surprised me how easy I forget, and how easy it is for me to fall back into those familiar patterns of destruction, essentially. And it's just like, how can I forget when I'm constantly being reminded, but yet I still forget. So dancing, being weird and silly, and watching inspiring videos, I think really helps me. Because again, like I watch like TV and movies to numb out sometimes, so it's really interesting using that same tool, but coming from a place of like uplifting instead of using it as a tool for numbing out. So yeah, again, it's just, there's quite a fine line there that I just have to watch. But yeah.
Thank you, brilliant. Yeah, a lot of that resonated with me, the dancing especially. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Elaine.
Hi, I just think the dancing and the freedom and fun, being happy, getting around like-minded people, because if you've got happy friends, and I like to think we're a group of happy people, but I have got some carers that I've worked with that are in the past that are very happy people, and you can't help but be happy because they're so much fun. You know, you can sing and you know, that's like, you can include everybody in it, you know, even the people you support, they become part of it and enjoy it. And you know, that for me is what life is about, just being happy with people. You know, it's sort of, and I think one of my real freedoms is knowing where I came from, because being bedbound, housebound, wheelchair bound, being isolated, being too unwell to read or to think or to do anything. And that's completely the opposite. That every time this stuff tries to draw you back into the old stuff, I'm never going to be that because I'm free. And I think that that's, you know, that's like knowing where we've all come from. You know, we've all come and we've overcome. And we're getting strength. We've begun our journey, some of us a long time ago, some of us quite recently, but that's developing all the way through our lives. And it's quite fun. And that's like thinking nothing's wasted. Because like my husband says, I love this, what he says, the experiences I've had yesterday have made me the person that I am today. And I listen to him say that, and I think, wow, yeah, because I wouldn't have fitted with him how he was before, and he wouldn't have fitted with me. But we're free to be who we are now. And that's what it is, you know, finding the truth, what we've got in us, what we feel ourselves and know, and staying free in that, you know, not getting drawn back into negativeness, trying to speak positively. There's been research, isn't there, where psychologists have found that if you speak positively over yourself, like by looking into a mirror, people actually change because they're actually speaking nice things over themselves. So, you know, we can all do that.
Lovely. Thank you, Elaine. That was very cheerful. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. And where are we now? Christina. Teresa, you haven't shared this part, have you? And I know Zaida hasn't. I'm sorry about that, Zaida.
Rachel, I think.
Rachel, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, it's just looking on the screen. So who wants to share next? Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that people have said already. I have to say, I felt really enthused and joyful watching Amy talking so enthusiastically about her dancing. It was lovely. And then Elaine just lit up today. It's just wonderful to see. One of the things that I try and do is challenge my thinking patterns when I'm feeling low, because I know it's thinking patterns. But actually, there's a couple of things that other people have said, you know, being around people and making an effort, because even though I want to curl up into a ball and hide myself under a duvet and forget the outside world, I know that when I'm around other people, it does make a difference. It doesn't help when other people tell me to do it. It has to be me that tells me to do it. But there's a couple of things that have helped me to sort of remember to change my thinking patterns, or just to sort of put things in perspective, I suppose, for me. And one of those is that our moods and how we feel about ourselves is like a wave, so it goes up and down. So there will be times when we're feeling good, and there are also times when we feel low. But even when we're feeling low, there is a time when it'll come back again to feeling okay. And that's something that gives me great comfort. Even if I'm feeling down, I know that I'm going to come back up again and reach that peak again, rather than a trough. So that's something that I find really helpful. Emptying my head, so putting things on paper. I think someone was talking about journals, and that's really useful for me. And talking to friends, getting clarity, as I said before, is, you know, if I'm not sure about something, and getting you know, talking to the people around me about how I'm feeling, and they are usually supportive, even though I feel like I'm a burden to them. Actually, most of the time I'm not. When I've told them, I feel better for it, so it's good. And then there's also the another sort of process that I use, which is just making a note each day of good things that happen. So it might just be something really small, or it might just be one line of something positive that somebody says. But if I make a note of it, then I've got it there for me to just reassure myself that actually, when I think I'm the worst person in the world, or that I'm terrible, I'm failing at something, you know, I'm okay. I've got these, you know, I've got this feedback from other people, but it also reassures and reaffirms my own feelings about myself. But also just taking joy in little things in life, like rainbows and flowers and buds and happiness, happy little things. Yeah,
love it.
Sound a bit like a hippie, but hey, sometimes you have to be a hippie.
Absolutely. Thank you. There's a reason that hippie and happy sound similar, I think. Brilliant, thank you. And who would like to share next? Teresa, Christina? Yeah. Teresa, sorry.
Apologies for coming back a bit late. I had a bit of a moment downstairs, but I'm okay. Oh God, there's loads of different things that I do or should do. know I want to do, should do, and know are good for me. But some of those things are yoga, mindfulness, meditation. I walk the dog every day, and that's always a really good opportunity for me to practice mindfulness and to do like a gratitude. I try and sort of do, I don't know what you call it, a list of 10 things that I'm grateful for every day. So I think about the things that are good and not the things that are bad. What else do I do? Dancing is like one of the ways that I feel most myself. But yeah, I don't always get myself to that comfortable enough place to just dance. I wish I could just dance on my own like you, Amy. But I don't know, don't quite feel comfortable doing that. Singing, laughter. I think laughter is really important, and really, yeah, playfulness. I think that's really good too. Being silly. I feel like I've kind of been able to relive bits of my childhood that I missed by being silly and playful. Me and my husband are like especially silly with each other, which is fantastic. Yeah. So, and I just think anything that is kind of arts related, anything that's kind of playful, yeah. And also, like as Katie said, I think for me sometimes I'm not even that aware that I'm feeling something. It's just there. It's so present. There's not words to describe it. It's just kind of white noise. And so I've been more recently just trying to kind of focus in and sit with whatever it is. And then once I sit with it, then I can start feeling what it is, and then understanding where it's coming from. And I'd say, like, in the last few months, I've been doing a lot of that. So I've been understanding a lot more of the difficult feelings and that sit with me. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of work at the moment, which obviously is going to help in this process. Trying to think of anything else. I think that's it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Teresa. Some radical stuff in there as well as the sort of routine well-being stuff. That's great stuff. Thank you. And Saeed and Christina. Christina, do you want to go first, and then we'll just see if Saeed can get some sound again.
I think one of the things for myself was that was a situation I wasn't fully prepared for, but it's actually having my my sort of argument really to counter things, but in a non-emotional way. So it's like preparing my head to actually, you know, to, if I get confronted like that again, to be able to actually have my retaliation that, you know, equally makes me feel as though I've had, or I've been heard, but in a as I say, a non sort of confrontational way. I think that for my self-care, it was really funny. I only started jogging in the summer, and I've sort of just got to under 10k, which I was really sort of really close to getting to 10k. And then this happened, and I didn't go out for a week. And I found it a real mental challenge, actually, the jogging. And it's been really good because it just, as Lou said, it's about your mind space. It gives me a complete distraction. But actually, it was the wrong thing to do. I should have actually got my stuff on and gone out, and I didn't. And I didn't eat chocolate. I didn't eat wine. I just sort of imploded a little bit, and just worked through it. I think one of the things I did do, though, positively, was that I sort of, I don't know, put my head into work mode, and I sent out some emails and turned perhaps some of that that concern and that lack of confidence into sort of something positive, and, you know, just followed up things and connected with people who are on my same wavelength, not in a personal way, but in a business way. And, you know, that was quite positive. So that's sort of some of my self-care. But I don't relax easy, and I am an overthinker. So I do struggle with sort of being emotional. I don't like it. I find it vulnerable, which perhaps is an issue, but I sort of need to be strong, and, you know, I feel that's my way of coping.
Thank you for sharing, Christina. Brilliant. It's all a process, isn't it? So, Ida, would you like to try and see if we can hear you? Ain't gonna happen, is it? That's so annoying. Oh, maybe you can send an email out to everyone about what helps you afterwards. So sorry not to hear you. At least you're like smiling and happy, so that's good. We appreciate that. We appreciate you being here anyway. Thank you. And I wrote down, I was inspired by or resonated and inspired by many of the things you've all shared. And another thing that really helps me, which I do quite a lot of as a routine, is try to be in silence. It just feels really replenishing for me to just not have noise. And other times, you know, I will sometimes get in the car and put the music on really loud, you know, so it almost just drowns out and stuff like that. I love music, I love dancing, that really helps me. Nature for sure is a huge one. What else have I got? I regularly sing. My daughter runs a choir, so and the weeks that's not on, you know, sort of out of term time, I do miss it, and so I found that that's actually a real release, and it's kind of a sense of community as well, in a lighter way than this, obviously. One thing that came up recently is I got into that paranoid thought about, you know, what actually was related to my family and what they were doing and the fun they were having and I wasn't, and all that kind of stuff, and feeling paranoid about that, feeling it was aimed at me a little bit. And I just thought, okay, it's just a thought and I don't need to believe that. And so I didn't react to it, moved forward fairly quickly. And a couple of days later found out, yeah, it was just a thought and it wasn't true. And it came out naturally that was the case. So that was like really insightful, that, you know, the thoughts I'm sometimes having just aren't true. So that was very useful. Doing yoga, I do a little bit of yoga every morning, but I'd love to do more, actually. And that I find when I take the time, it helps enormously. It's probably one of the biggest things for me, actually. One thing I've learned in the last few years is sort of mentally cleaning my energy, and that's that sort of shower visualization that I share in Kind of Listening. That's, you know, I share it because it helps me so much. It may not help everyone, but like literally trying to clear my energy really seems to help me. And a big one for me, again, more recently, is reaching out. You know, the friendship I have with Katie is wonderful and supportive, and that's been huge support for me. And realizing that, you know, women are supportive. I think I've been very grown up to be sort of tough and independent and autonomous all my life. That's kind of my conditioning, really. And it's really, you know, through my crisis that I sort of got in touch with that other side, that actually we can support each other and connect with each other, and just connecting with each other is supportive, as we're finding here. So that's sort of wonderful new thing. Another one, which is maybe a little strange, is well, it doesn't matter, does it? It's all good. Is lighting a candle, and I sometimes again forget to do that, but I love to have candle light. You know, at dinner sometimes when I'm often eat on my own, and I don't usually forget, you know, and just have a quick practical meal, but actually making an effort for myself to have a meal with a couple of candles, even if it's just me, feels very self-caring. Doing that occasionally feels lovely. I think for me it's about trusting, and, you know, like just having that faith and trust that everything's okay, and I just need to sort of almost have a mantra of that in my mind and remind myself of that, so that really helps. So thank you. We'll make sure that's all of that sent out as a list of resources. Yeah, Amy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd just like to add something, if that's okay. I kind of had a situation on Saturday where I had a complete free day, which hasn't happened for a while. I thought, yes, I'm going to sit in my pajamas all day and just like lounge about. And it got to about 5 o'clock or something, or maybe even earlier, and I was just feeling really shit. And I was just like, oh, you know what? I just can't. I'm not enjoying this, you know. Usually, like, I do enjoy just lounging around in my pajamas, but I just wasn't enjoying it, and felt like I was going into quite a dark place. And what I decided to do was like just get up, have a shower, and clean my teeth, and that was just like revolutionary. So it's just like because a lot of the things that you shared about like doing yoga and meditation, like I know going out for a walk and being in nature makes me feel so good. But it's just that resistance and that actually doing it. Sometimes I find it so hard, then it's like a double stress. So yeah, so for me, like something, when I'm in that really dark place, something really simple like my personal hygiene just works amazingly. And, you know, kind of like ticks the box of being an adult somewhat, you know, just like having some personal hygiene going on. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. It just sort of came up to me when I remembered it. Good. That's all right.
For sharing that. It's the little things sometimes. In fact, they're often the most powerful. Excuse me, I'm just looking for another sheet that we did from last time, and I can't find it now. Have you got that handy, Katie? The one that we had from last time?
Yes, I have.
Is there anything on there that you know, from the last cohort, if you like, that we shared that might be another idea?
Yeah, okay, I'll go through. So we were talking about, you mentioned, Linda, energy cleansing. So a few people mentioned protecting their energy, like physically using a blanket for sort of feeling self-protection, or perhaps like having a soft cuddly toy occasionally if you feel really low, like if you've got something sentimental, to holding it to your heart or something. And also connected to that, energetic healing, so things like Reiki treatments, reflexology, hugging, personal contact, holding hands, hugging, I think is a big one actually. Praying, some people mentioned. Channeling our anger, so using, kind of going out into the woods and yelling, or doing kind of more strenuous exercise like kickboxing if we need to release anger. Earthing, being in nature, but also things like wild water swimming, being in the sun, following our natural bodily rhythms rather than kind of using time and that kind of thing. So taking some time out to get back into sync with our natural rhythms. Voluntary work can help us to feel better. using natural remedies, eating healthily, bark remedies, essential oils, taking vitamins, using lavender, chamomile teas if we're struggling to sleep. So I'm just looking through the list. Using other therapeutic interventions if we need to, counselling, hypnotherapy, EFT, NLP. I think we've mentioned pretty much everything else.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I might just give in some other ideas. Thank you.
I'll add whatever we've spoken about today, and add some of those in, and just see if they feel okay.
Yeah, thank you. Chancy.
I just want to add something very quickly. I remembered when I first came to the UK, being from a Mediterranean, very touchy-feely, extroverty culture, like I find that there wasn't enough bodily contact, there wasn't physical contact to actually feed my soul. So me and a Spanish friend of mine come up with this thing called the 7-second hug. So when you see each other, you hug each other for 7 seconds, and it's bliss. I suggest everyone to use it, especially in cold back pain.
Fantastic, love it, wonderful.
I'm happy to introduce that for our next gathering if anyone else is. I can always do a hug.
I'm an expert. I invented it.
Excellent. So we've all got lots of good resources there, which is just awesome. So we'll send that out as a sheet, and we've got lots of time, so that's really nice. I'm just going to go through then sort of what we're going to be sending out from today and introduce next week, and then we'll have a closing share if that works out all right. So just as a closing sort of reminder, I think we mentioned the competency list if you haven't, or competency questionnaire. If you haven't done that, if you could send that out ASAP, that would be great. Also, if you haven't done your safeguarding, it's not urgent, but it would just be good to get that out of the way, kind of thing. One thing that came up in a previous group when we did this session was that because we were talking more about more extreme crisis and they were more current, we looked at the idea of sharing, if you could send by email maybe, but actually the idea is there of sharing your emergency contact. So if you were to go into more of a struggle, more of a real challenge, is there someone you would want? So if you didn't appear and didn't hear from you for weeks and we were sort of like wondering what's happened, is there someone you would want us to contact? So say, could you check on, that kind of thing? And that's, again, it's a practice that we would encourage you to do for your groups. We'll bring that up in again later. We've got an emergency contact form actually that we can give to you as a template for your groups. Just as a nice sort of, what's the word, duty of care kind of thing, really, a caring thing to do. Yeah, so it'd be great to reflect on, once we've sent the details out, on your self-care habits, anything new that you want to bring in, and bring that in a weekly and daily basis. So there's self-care, which is when you've gone through a challenge or when you're going through a challenge, and there's also what can we do to self-care to maintain our levels, if you like, of well-being. What appeals to you to do on a regular basis. So there are things like dancing, singing, yoga, going for a walk, getting outside every day, or that, whatever it is for you, of all the things we've discussed. It would be a good idea for you to think about that. We've also I can't remember if what's been sent out. There's a couple of documents around self-care and boundaries. Quite a useful one, I think, or a couple of useful ones about boundaries. One more sort of text focused, discussing boundaries and sort of how they help and what the problems are. And also just a sort of resource sheet, which I think is quite useful, because I think a lot of our challenges potentially come from a lack of boundaries. Not necessarily, but that might be helpful. And also, the fact that they're always evolving, they're not fixed, they're not stagnant, but, it's our tuning in to ourselves that helps us know what's good for us now and in the future. It's already been mentioned, I think, the Brené Brown YouTube video on vulnerability. I encourage you to take a look at that. We'll send the link out after this session as well. It's just a really useful resource. And we will also be circulating for next week. We won't be doing this straight away today, but either next Thursday, Friday when we send out the link, or on Monday we'll be sending out a link, because next week we're looking at peer group dynamics and how to create group cohesion and the challenges to that. So we'll send that out as a resource in advance, and that's the subject we'll be covering. But also next week, that will be the first half of the session. In the second half of the session, we have got an opportunity for one of you to step up and do a practice facilitation. It's really exciting. So you might want to be thinking about whether you want to take that on for the second half of the session. And we've got an idea of the subject, which we to start off with, which will be sort of issues relating to sharing your experience. You know, how difficult has that been? How difficult is it still dealing with invalidation as you shared what was going on for you? So think about if you want to step up and practice your facilitation in this lovely safe space. There'll be an opportunity for feedback on that as well, compassionate feedback, but valuable feedback as well. And you could be thinking about if and when you do want to practice, how you might want to do that, whether you'd rather have it organised in sort of split times, but equally between each person, or having an open discussion. So just have a think about that. If you know you want to do that, email us up front, and it'll be first come, first served. And if you don't, if no one does that, that's fine. We will find someone on the night. Bless you. Not to be scary. It's all actually valid. Everyone. I'm hoping, and I'm sure that everyone will get a chance to do some practice facilitation over the week. So just an early opportunity there. Just quickly then, shall we go into quickly checking in on the New Year gathering that we're trying to plan, Katie? Is that a good time to do that quickly?
Yeah, I would just, I'm really struggling to find a date that everyone can do, and I've sent out some dates for January and we still can't find a consensus. So I'm wondering whether to look at some Sundays. How would people be fixed for meeting on Sunday? Does that work for?
I won't be able to do a Sunday.
Sorry?
I won't be able to do Sunday.
Okay. Okay, we might need to go further into the year. Perhaps looking at a post-training celebration get together. I'll add some more dates to the doodle and hope that we can find a bingo. I'll add even more during the week as well, and just see what we can come up with. I'm not sure what else to do, to be honest. It's really hard because I don't want to choose a date and then have to, some dates some of you can't do, others can, and it's impossible to kind of try and make a decision. So I'll just add more dates and send the doodle out again. And if we can't find a consensus, maybe we'll have to plan something a bit later in the year so that everyone can say, right, that's the date, and keep it free for that particular reason. Does that sound okay?
Cool. Thank you for the hard work on that. There was something else as well. I think it was Elaine mentioned earlier about having rules and the risk of breaking rules and so on and so on. And I'm just checking in with you, Elaine. Was that referring to the group guidelines that you'll be creating with your group? Is that what you're referring to?
That was more to do with, I was reading up all the boundaries. I was reading up the boundaries and all the different things. And, I was thinking, as we're sort of doing it with people, and as you get nervous, you might sort of cross over without even realising, as much as we're trying to get them in, as much as I read them and agreed with them, you might not deliberately cross over. I think that's as we learn.
No, I totally hear you, Elaine, and I just encourage you to not worry too much about that. There's an awful lot that we're going through in this course. You're not going to take it all in the first time you facilitate a group, and it's absolutely fine. As I said in the kind of listening training, it's like you're human, you're doing this training, you're paying attention, you'll get a chance to practice, and you'll just do your best. And I encourage you to keep track of that progress that you're making and look at all what's going well. And when you make up and trip up and make a mistake, as I will do sometime in this training, I'll probably interrupt you or, you know, make a mistake, do something that isn't sort of perfect. It's okay, because we can recover from it. It's all fine. So yeah, just it's all okay. Yeah, you've got the resources and you can pay attention to them. That's all that there is, really. Yeah, and you can come back to them and sort of think, okay, that would be better. You know, it's all about that. So reflect and learn, and keep track of your progress and look at how far you've come as well. So thank you for sharing that. It's brilliant. And also just to let you know that Robin has decided to leave the group, unfortunately. I did try to check in with her to sort of get a bit more feedback about how she wanted to share that. But she won't be coming back to joining our sessions anymore. So sadly, but yeah, we'll miss her. And let's go into, how long do we have, Katie, for a closing share? Minute each? Yeah. Brilliant, perfect, thank you. I'm rubbish at that. I really appreciate you doing that for me, Katie. For us, rather. So who would like to share first, just a closing minute? Amy, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I have really appreciated this session today, because I really feel like I've been able to connect. And I think, like, in every session beforehand, I've been like, so tired, can't do this, whatever. And I'm just like, because I'm just at that point that I just can't, you know, fully be here. And for some reason right now, I seem to have some energy. So it's just really, yeah, just really appreciated actually being able to connect with all of you, and show up fully. So yeah, thank you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm back.
Yay! Wonderful to have your energy back, Amy. Absolutely awesome.
But yeah, so thank you everyone for sharing all your wisdom. And yeah, I'm actually wanted to say that I feel like I say, I feel a bit more present and feel up for having connections like outside of the Mondays. If anyone's up for like having a coffee or whatever, even though I don't drink coffee, but you know what I mean. Yeah, so just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Good, buddying up. And yeah, thank you. Who would like to share next? Yeah, Shansu. Oops.
I'm actually leaving with a motto today. So, be more hippie is going to be my my week's motto. And you can find me in town wearing purples and pinks and probably freezing to death, but it's still okay, happy. Yeah, I really appreciate, and I feel a very strong connection to all of you. And I'm actually looking forward to having this session on Mondays. It fills me with positive energy, and I feel it very productive. Sometimes we were talking about it just today that I feel like I'm draining my energy during the week, just being in my mind, and then I know that I have Monday to actually look forward to, and then I can come and basically suck all of your wisdom and positive energy and then start my week back again. And it feels really good. Thank you very much. I actually resonated again with a lot of what you guys said and taken notes for myself. But do want you to take the advice of the 7-second hug. Just go and hug someone. It really feels so good. But also, as a biologist, I would like to advise vitamin D on these dark days. It helps you to actually kickstart your the brain chemistry on a more balanced level. So try to get daylight, get some vitamin D, which is basically sunshine in a bottle. It really helps. It helps me at the least. So look after yourselves. You are far too important for me. And going back to what Amy was saying, yeah, it's a very selfish thing. I don't care if you look after yourselves for yourselves. Look after yourselves for me. I need you on Mondays. That was bad. But going back to what Amy said, me and Christina actually tried to meet up a couple of times, and I was busy, and then I was in a weird place. But if people are in town, I was going to email Christina again saying if she wanted to catch up with our failed date. But Amy, if you're around as well, just let's catch up. I'm in town.
Lovely.
Have a lovely week.
Thank you, Lucy. Yeah, is that Elaine? Is it Elaine saying you want to check out? Yeah.
Jump and check out. Don't check out that way.
Oh no.
Oh, I pressed the wrong button. No, I was waving, but I will check out as well. I've really enjoyed the talk today. I've really felt we've all got somewhere, and it's been quite exciting to share. Yeah, it's been really good, and I would love to have a coffee with anyone, but if you make it a bit later in the day because of work, yeah, that's great. And what you were saying earlier as well about not feeling motivated, not getting ready, I do think we have to sometimes do deliberate actions. Like, I never stay and lie about like I used to. I make myself get ready. I make myself do an activity. I could do some good old digging. That's very good. Allotment. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Elaine. Brilliant. Love it. Good. Yeah, Rachel.
I just wanted to sort of say that I found this evening and most evenings really uplifting. By last week, which was quite a wobbly one, but this has really just turned it around completely. It's been so lovely to hear positive things from everybody and so much support. I feel really blessed, so thank you. And I'm going to go on a high and float out of the room.
Wonderful.
Maybe hug a tree.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. Brilliant. Yeah, Lou. Oh, sorry. Lou.
Yeah, echo everything that's been said. It's been lovely session. I'm absolutely knackered, and I've been sitting here trying to fight the tiredness. So I'm unlike Amy. I'm not in the room. That energy's I'm losing it right now because I've got a lot on. I've got to do an essay for next Tuesday, so I'm really wanting to be there next Monday. I'm just going to have to see how it goes, but that is the day before it's all due in. Quite worried about all that. There's a lot of pressure trying to fit everything in. Got a load of family stuff at the weekend. So yeah, just going to go to bed, I think. But thank you everyone to just, such great advice. It's amazing how many, how much stuff we can just come up with. I wrote loads of things down, and there were things I'd forgotten that people were saying, and so it's just brilliant. It's really lovely to share all this stuff. So thank you so much.
Bed is good self-care too, Lou.
Yeah.
To the list.
I'm already there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what the problem is because I'm in bed. Or, well, I'm not in bed, but I'm on the bed, yeah. And I'm up for a coffee, yes, please, if anyone wants to. And I'm in Norwich 2 or 3 days a week. So, yeah, at the end of the day.
We're throwing a date for that, everyone.
I know. It's got to be, do you know what? I think it's got to be spontaneous and then it works.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to meet up with Rachel, I know she has a bit further to travel if you're coming to Norwich, Rachel, but I know you'd happily connect by Zoom probably or something like that. Did you want to say something?
I am actually coming to Norwich, but I can't remember which day. So I'll let you know, and if you're around, it'd be great to see you guys.
Awesome. Good stuff. And where are we? Teresa? Yeah, thank you.
I'm always up for coffees as well. But yeah, like everyone's saying, it's just dates when we can all make it. But Mondays and Fridays are often free for me, so I'm usually able to manage Mondays and Fridays if anyone else wants to or is around. Sometimes my dog's with me though, but he'll just smother you in doggy kisses. Sometimes I feel like this is such an emotional roller coaster. And I had like a dip in the middle, and then I feel lots better again already. I think it's just surprising sometimes what does come up. And then I think what I'm finding more surprising is how quickly I can change that from being like a real wobble to then kind of thinking, no, I'm fine. And also I just wanted to say, when we were talking about things that are good and help us, something that's really helped me is mindful self-compassion. And I sometimes have like a meditation that I play on my phone. Like I think it's Kristen Neff. And that's been really helpful, because I think sometimes when you're in that process of beating yourself up, the compassion for yourself bit is harder to connect with. So I think that might be useful to some of you. It's been very useful to me. But it's always cool hanging out with you guys, even though I do feel like I'm a bit weird compared to most of you. But then, you know, I like the saying, stay weird. So there you go. Anyway, good seeing you all again. Thank you.
You're definitely one of us, Teresa. Thank you. Lovely. And Christina? Sorry, Katie, next.
Yeah. No, it's lovely to hear. You know, I think the vulnerabilities that we all have and how we cope with them and how we sort of, you know, can move forward from them. I think at the moment I'm sort of not showing much empathy or much emotion, and not feeling it actually. Perhaps after that incident, I don't quite know why, or perhaps it's just that I'm actually really busy. So a lot of that stuff is sort of shutting down for me, and I'm just focusing on the things that I need to do. So yeah, it's good to hear everyone else sort of opening up, but I still feel quite shut myself. But that's perhaps tonight. But that's just perhaps tonight. But yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, see how next week goes. But yes, as for coffee, well, we'll have to see on the days, because I don't know. But yes, I'm up. If anyone emails, that's good.
Brilliant. Thank you, Christina. Lovely. And Saida, so sorry that you haven't been able to share tonight. Really, really sorry about that. But maybe you can send us, as I say, a quick email to all of us saying what your self-care is. That would be awesome. Katie.
Gosh, yeah. I don't think we could be more hippie if we tried. Hippie's great. Weird is even better. As many of us know. Yeah. So I don't know. It just feels, it feels really lovely. I so appreciate everybody every week. How I'm kind of in awe of how everyone drops their facades and shares so much, and it does feel like an emotional roller coaster, but I see that as a really positive thing, because it does feel so safe, and I think it's easy to just become emotional when it feels safe, and I feel that's a very positive thing that we've created together. So I'm just really grateful to everybody, and I'm definitely up for hugging. Thanks for that, Chansu.
Thank you. Yes, it's been wonderful to hear. I'm so honoured to hear you sharing your, what's been challenging for you as well, and obviously very empowering and inspiring to hear what works for you. And the thing is to take that forward, like take this inspiration, the connection that you feel, and bring something in every day for yourself. And refer to that list when you're having the challenges and keep track of your progress. Brilliant. Thank you. Loads of love to you, and see you next week. Bless you, I like that. That's really lovely. Bless you. Bye.
Virtual hugs.